Thank you for joining us in this year's IRAS Direct Submission Training. Before we start, allow me to share a few house rules. All attendees will be muted to reduce background noise. You can turn off your webcams since it will not be required during the training. For any questions, you may enter them in the chat and we will address them during the Q&A part. Also, after this training, we will send a thank you email for all attendees and share the slide presentation and training recording with you. This training will guide you on how to generate your employees' tax forms and export the files, and how to do a direct submission to IRAS. The first part of the training will be an overview of IRAS Direct Submission. The second part will be a demo on cross-checking income information, how to generate the IRAS files, and direct submission to IRAS. The last part is for the questions and answers. Now let's start. First, let me briefly explain what IRAS Direct Submission is. The IRAS Direct Submission enables the employers to submit employees' income information electronically to IRAS, directly from the Just Login system. The information used and submitted will be based on the monthly payrolls that were processed inside the Just Login system from January to December. Or it can be based on the opening balance that was manually entered into the system. All the necessary income information will be included in the employee's tax returns for verification and tax filing purposes. Also, one of the advantages of direct submission is you won't need to print out a physical IRAA form, and your employees can access their own copy of the tax form from their Just Login account. The IRAS Direct Submission, is this available for everyone? For your company to do the direct submission through Just Login, your company must be registered through the Auto Inclusion Scheme, or AIS. This is mandatory for organizations with at least 5 employees. However, employers are encouraged to join the AIS regardless of the number of employees they have. Moving on, let's briefly discuss the different IRAS forms and files that we can download and submit through Just Login system. First, we have the IR8A form for the return of employees' remuneration. You can submit the original and amendment file. You can also submit Appendix 8A form for the non-monetary benefits in kind. Then, we also have the Appendix 8B form for the gains and profits from employee stock options or other forms of employee share ownership. The form IR21 is available to fill out inside Just Login system. This is for the employer's notification of foreign employees' departure from Singapore. Then, we also have the IR8S form. This form must be completed if you have made excess CPF contributions on your employees' wages and have claimed or will claim refund on excess CPF contributions. For the forms IR8S, Appendix 8A and 8B, you can submit for original, while for the IR21 form, this is only for a reference copy. We also like to share that this year, we've introduced a new feature that allows IRAS forms to be automatically sent to employees through email upon release, in addition to being accessible in their Just Login accounts. Now, let me give you an overview of the direct submission process. The process in submitting the tax forms would be in 3 steps. The first step is to consolidate salary information. You need to generate certain payroll reports and cross-check the information to ensure the accuracy of the data we are submitting to IRAS. The second step is to generate the IRAS files. Then, the third and last step is to review the forms and then submit the form to IRAS. First step, consolidate salary information. For existing users, the information used and submitted to IRAS will be based on the monthly payrolls that were processed inside Just Login system from January to December. While for the new users, it will be based on the opening balance that was manually entered into the system. The opening balance is necessary if you did not process any payroll inside the system, but you would like to submit for IRAS. Now, when consolidating the salary information, the reports that you need to generate to cross-check the income information would be the payroll report number 14, which is called the payroll yearly by employee. This report should contain the income from January to December. Then, another report to generate would be the payroll report number 18, which is called the employee pay run tax details, which should also contain taxable income information from January to December. To generate these reports for cross-checking purpose, go to Payroll Reports, then locate report number 14, Payroll Yearly by Employee, and report number 18, Employee Pay Run Tax Details. Also, one thing that we need to ensure before submitting to IRS is that the tax code must be mapped or associated correctly to the applicable pay elements. The payroll report, number 18, employee pay run tax details, would indicate the pay elements that are associated with the tax code. You can also confirm this by going to Payroll Configuration, then Pay Elements page. Second step, generate IRAS files. Once you've cross-checked the income information and verified its accuracy, you can proceed to generate the IRAS files. There are two types of files to generate. First, the original for new submission. You can generate multiple original files if it has not been submitted yet. Then the second one is the amendment. This is used when you've already submitted the forms, but changes or corrections are required. Once the files are generated, you can review and submit them. This is the final step where the generated file is sent to IRAS directly through Apex integration. The XML file format is used to submit directly through Just Login, or it can be downloaded and submitted to IRAS portal. The PDF format is just a printable format, plainly for manual use. If you have been using our system, we are happy to share the feature that we have, which is the IRAS submission through Apex or GovTech. The Government Technology Agency Singapore have launched this project in collaboration with IRAS. It provides a more convenient and safer way to submit income records. Apex is a centralized data sharing platform within the government. The process follows the same exact steps as the normal IRAS submission. Although with this, you will be required to use your SingPass for authentication. That would be a brief overview of IRAS Direct Submission. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A box and we'll answer them at the end, or the team will respond in chat. Now, let's proceed to our demo. The first step is to log in to the account as a payroll administrator. In the payroll module, you should first start by generating the payroll reports number 14 and 18 to cross-check and consolidate the income information. So now, go to Payroll, Reports, and generate reports number 14 and 18. Download the reports and cross-check the information for each employee. After cross-checking and verifying that all information is accurate, let's proceed with generating the IRAS files. Now, go to Payroll module and select IRAS menu. When you're on the IRAS page, you will see 3 different stages to go through, which you can click on at any time. The first stage is to generate IRAS forms. The second stage is to review and submit forms. The last stage is the submission status. Now, let's start to generate IRAS forms. Here, you must fill in the necessary details for each of the sections. Please note that those with asterisks are mandatory fields. In the IRAS submission details, you will see the following fields and must select the correct options. The tax year is the tax submission year. By default, this will display the current year for which you need to submit your taxes. The payment type is grayed out and automatically set for you. The form export type can be IR8A form, Appendix 8A, and Appendix 8B, and it will generate a PDF file, while the export files will be in XML format and to be used for IRAS submission. To further explain, the IRAS Export XML is the format used for digital submission directly to IRAS. The IR8A form is the printable PDF version for employees' copy only. You can also choose the option IRAS Export XML and IR8A form to generate both formats. Appendix 8A is for employees with benefits in kind. These are non-cash benefits provided to employees, such as company cars or housing that are taxable. Appendix 8B is for stock or share options, if the company provides. The format, Appendix 8A and Appendix 8B, are the printable PDF format, while the Appendix 8A Export XML and Appendix 8B Export XML are format to be used for submission to IRAS. The IRAS Export XML is for submission to IRAS if there's any CPF over-contribution to get a refund. The IR8S form is a PDF copy for reference only. You can also choose the option IR8S Export XML and IR8S form to generate both XML and PDF format for IR8S. That's it for the form type. The organization ID type is the org type the company is registered under, and the source type is set to private sector by default. For the organization ID number, the system will capture the UEN saved under the company details in payroll configuration page. Now, let's proceed to the other details section. For the batch indicator, we have 2 options. First is original. This is used for first submission. It means no submissions have been done yet. The second option is amendment, which is used when you have already submitted the forms to IRAS, but you need to make changes or corrections. Only if there are corrections to be made, then you must use the amendment option under batch indicator to revise the previously submitted information. The batch date refers to the date when the file is generated. By default, this is set to the current date. The division or branch name is an optional information, only if applicable. The Appendix 8A and 8B options are to be used if your company provides benefits in kind or stocks or shares options. For example, if your company provides shares or stocks to your employees, you will have to tick the option to include the value of share option to be taken from Appendix 8B, but note that the appendices must be filled out first. Now, the third section, the authorized person details. The details provided in this section will be used by IRAS if they need to contact the company regarding the submission. The employee name is the company's main PIC or person in charge. The email address is PIC's email address. By default, the employee's name and email are pulled from the company information from payroll configuration page, but you can always change it to someone else here. The designation is the PIC's role in the company. The company name is name of the company you are submitting the tax forms for. Then the phone number is the PIC's contact number. Now let's scroll down to the bottom of the page and proceed to the section Generate IRAS for selected employees. On this part, you must select the employees that you will be submitting the IRAS files for. Check this option, Exclude Employee with Zero Income, to exclude those employees with zero income and not required to report to IRAS. On the upper right side is the filter option. The first option is Activated Employees. These are active payroll users. The second option is Deactivated Employees. These are inactive or resigned employees who were left as payroll users at the time of profile deactivation. You can also click on the Show drop-down and select accordingly to show more entries. Ticking the box beside Employee will select all names in the search result. Or you can manually select the employees you want to include, and then click on the Generate button to proceed. That's the first stage, generating the IRAS forms. Before we proceed, just a quick reminder that for any questions, you may drop them in the Q&A box. Then, the system will redirect you to the next stage, which is where you can review the generated files and do the submission in. You will see these information. The first one is form type, is the type of IRAS file that's generated. The IRAS Export XML is the format used for digital submission directly to IRAS. The IR8A form is the printable PDF version for employees copy only. Appendix 8A is for employees with benefits in kind. These are non-cash benefits provided to employees, such as company cars or housing that are taxable. Appendix 8B is for stock or share options if company provides. The format Appendix 8A and Appendix 8B are the printable format, while the Appendix 8A, Export XML, and Appendix 8B, Export XML, are format to be used for submission to IRAS. The IR8S Export XML is for submission to IRAS if there's any CPF over contribution to get a refund. The IR8S form is a PDF copy for reference only. That's it for the form type. The next part that you will see is the tax year. It is the tax submission year. The batch date is date when report was generated. The batch indicator is whether the submission is original or amendment. The status is the generated file status. The total users is the number of users selected for the generated file. The success column will reflect the number of successful file generation. The fail column will show the number of entries that failed. Please don't panic if there are failed entries. You can just click on the number and see the details of the error. The released column will indicate the number of files that have been released to users. The run by is the payroll administrator who generated the file. Then lastly, the action column, where you can click either to download, release files, and delete files. You can click this download icon to download the file. You can click this release icon to release the PDF file to employees, which they can view in Payroll, My Payslip page, under Text Documents subtab, and then you can click this delete icon to delete the generated file. For failed entries, or if you prefer to generate a new one. If there are failed entries, please make the necessary changes and generate a new file until you get a successful result. Or you can click on the form type name to access it. For form files, a tax file download page will load just like this. You can click on the download button or file icon under Action. For XML files, a separate IRAS XML detail section will be shown like this. You can click on the download button or file icon under Action, or click on the file name, which will take you to the tax file download preview page. You can click on the download button to download the XML file to a readable Excel version for IR 8A XML file only. Once all the information has been verified, you can click on the back button to bring you back to the Review and Submit Forms page. You can continue to do the submission from this page or go back later. Before we proceed, just a quick reminder that for any questions, you may drop them in the Q&A box. Moving on, when you're finally ready to submit to IRAS, select the file and then click the appropriate button at the lower right side of the page. Please note that if there is no box to tick beside the file name, it means that the form type is not in XML. Therefore, it cannot be used for submission. You must go back to the previous steps and must generate a new file in XML. Now, click the button Company IRAS Submission. This is if you are submitting your company's tax information. Select this if you are someone employed in the same company that you are submitting IRAS for. For example, if you're the HR administrator of the company. Or you can click the button Tax Agent IRAS Submission. This is if you are a tax agent and if you are submitting on behalf of your client. A tax agent is someone processing and submitting IRAS forms on behalf of another company. And now click on the applicable button, and then a pop-up message will show, and you can click the confirm button to continue, or you can click the cancel button to cancel the process. If you click the confirm button to continue the submission, then you will be redirected to a pop-up page where you will need to log in using your SingPass details. Please note that if there is no pop-up page, then you must check your browser's pop-up blocker settings and make sure to allow this pop-up page. Once you're in, you must select the company tax number you are submitting the tax file for. For those submitting as tax agent, make sure you are given authorization by the company. Now, confirm you're allowing or giving the permission, which means that you have granted Just Login the access to connect to IRAS and submit the tax records. It may take a while for the page to load after clicking the Allow button. Please wait until the pop-up window disappears and all the data is uploaded. Once the submission is complete, it will take you back to the submission status page in Just Login system. If the submission is successful, you should then see the submission reference number. In addition, IRAS will also be sending an acknowledgement email to confirm the submission status. If the submission failed, it would show either a red exclamation or a yellow warning icon. The red exclamation means there are errors that must be fixed before generating a new file. It can be incorrect or missing information. The yellow icon just indicates a warning, but not an error. So you can either click on the button, ignore warnings, and proceed to continue the submission. Or you can click the button, resubmit with requirements to generate a new file and include other missing required information. That's it for the IRAS Direct Submission process. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A box and we'll answer them at the end, or the team will respond in chat. Now, just to share, we also have these additional forms, and for most clients, these forms are not needed. The following forms are exceptions and apply only to specific situations. First, the Appendix 8A and 8B forms. These forms are used for employee benefits reporting, typically for specific remuneration types like benefits in kind or stock or share options. Then the IR21 form. This is required when a foreign employee ceases employment or leaves Singapore. And we have the IRAS. This is applicable for those who made excess CPF contributions on your employee's wages and have claimed or will claim refund on excess CPF contributions. If you have questions on this, or if you think any of these forms may apply to your submission, you may reach out to us for clarification. Moving on the upper side of the IRAS page is where you can access the other forms, which will direct you to the corresponding pages on the account when clicked. First is the IRAS opening balance, is where you can enter the opening balance to provide the income information for the previous months prior to using Just Login Payroll, or to correct any missing pay elements or tax codes. To update the opening balance, click on the IRAS opening balance from the drop-down menu, and you will be redirected to a page where you can see names of employees and the pay elements. Enter the opening balance to the applicable pay elements and then click on Save. This is the manual way of entering the opening balance, but you can also do the import by clicking on this button, Import IRAS Opening Balance. Also, here on the IRAS Opening Balance page is where you can enter the director fee and other values that cannot be included in pay elements but required for IRAS submission. If you're entering, for example, the director fee, please make sure to enter the director's fees approval date. Please notice this red text and click on this link and you will be redirected to the next page where you can add the director's fees approval date. Next is the IRAS employee details. This is where you can enter any other employee information that are required for submission, missing information, or the ones not captured in the pay runs. For example, you need to add the bonus declaration date or the director's fees approval date because this is required when you need to enter the director fee in the IRAS opening balance. Then make sure to enter the necessary details here. That's it for the IRAS employee details page. Next is Appendix 8A or 8B. These are separate forms to fill out for benefits in kind and stock or share options. To fill out these forms, simply click on the name of the employee that you would like to edit or check the form. You will be redirected to this page, and by default, you will be at the first tab, which is Appendix 8A, for filling out the benefits in kind information. The form Appendix 8A is divided into 4 parts. The first part is related to the place of residence provided for the staff. You must fill out the necessary details on this part of the form. The second part is where you will enter the amounts for accommodation and related benefits that were provided by employer. For example, the annual value of the property, and click on the Calculate button and the field next to it will be auto-populated based on the formula provided by IRAS. Now, complete this part of the form. The third part for Appendix 8A refers to any hotel accommodation provided to the staff. Please complete each field and do not forget to click on the Calculate button. The fourth part refers to any other benefits in kind. For example, insurance, tutorials, or car benefits. Now please complete the necessary fields. Once done, please click on the Calculate button at the lower part of the page, and then check on the amounts indicated in the field found next to the Calculate button. Once done and verified that all information are correct, then click on the Submit button at the very bottom of the page to save the data. Now, the next tab, Appendix 8A, Benefits in Kind Additional. You will only use it if you have provided 2 different places of residence within the same financial year. If not, no need to fill it out. If applicable, then do the same steps as we did earlier for Appendix 8A tab. Moving on to the next tab, which is Appendix 8B, Stock Options Form, you will see the 8B form that needs to be completed. Please fill out the company's registration or UEN number and company's name. Column C1 is where you indicate if under ESOP or ESOW. If ESOP, Employee Stock Option Plan, please choose option 1. If ESOW, Employee Share Ownership, please choose option 2. Then in C2, enter the date of grant. This is the date when share ownership or stock option was provided to the staff. Then column D is the date of vesting. It is the date when the employee is eligible to exercise the option. Column E is the exercise price. This is the price at which the employee can purchase shares. Then G is the open market value per share. This is the value as of the date of exercise in column D. Then last, column H, is the number of shares acquired. Please indicate the number of shares. After filling out the necessary information, you must click on the Calculate button and check the calculated amounts beside it. You will need to do this for every stock option or share ownership that has been granted to the employee. And you can use Appendix 8B, Additional Page, which is the next tab, if you need more fields to complete. Once everything has been completed, scroll down to the very bottom of the page and click on the Calculate button. Check the final amount indicated and then click on the Submit button to save the data. Next is the IRAS amendment. You can use this to change any incorrect data that was submitted to IRAS. The IRAS amendment form is used to correct any missing or incorrect information from the IR 8A form that was originally submitted to IRAS. Now to fill out, click on the IRAS amendment form and click on the name of the employee whom you need to make the changes for. Make the necessary changes on this page. Please note that you will only need to add the missing values from the previously submitted file or deduct any amounts that were overdeclared. Only input the difference between your original submission and the new corrected value. And then click on the Update button to save the changes. You may move to the next employee from the drop-down above and do the same steps. After making the changes in the amendment form, you must go back to the IRAS page to generate a new IR8A XML file. Please remember to set the batch indicator to amendment. After you have generated the new IR8A XML file, you can then resubmit it to IRAS. That's it for the IRAS amendment form. The next one is the IR21 form. This is tax clearance form required for any foreign employees who are leaving or departing from Singapore. To fill out this form, click on the IR21 form and click the name of the employee and then fill out the necessary details. Complete all the necessary fields under basic information and do not forget to move to the other tabs, which are the income information and appendices when necessary. Once done, you must click on the Submit button to save the information, and then go back to the IR21 page and click on the next tab, Generate IR21. This is where you will be generating the form with the employee's information you have just completed. Select the type of form, choose Original if you have never submitted an IR21 form for the employee before, and choose Amended if you wish to make changes to the original IR21 form that was submitted previously. You must enter all the required fields, as this filing will replace the original form that was previously filed. Under Selected Employee, find the employee's name and complete the required information. Once done, you can now click on the Submit button and the system will now generate the file. Now scroll down and wait until the file status generation shows as completed. Once completed, you can then download the file, which you can later use to submit to IRAS. Please be aware that there is no option in Just Login system to directly submit the form IR21 to IRAS. You will have to submit it manually to IRAS. And that's it for IR21 form. The last form would be the IR8S form. It is used if there's any over-contributions to CPF made in the year. The system will automatically populate all the data based on the past pay runs done for this form. But if you need to update any missing or additional data, you may update it here. You also need to update the IRAS Employee Details form for the excess employer contribution to CPF. This is for employer's excess amount. And then you must update the IRAS Opening Balance form for the excess or voluntary contribution to CPF. This is for employees' excess amount. Now, to update the IR8S form, you must click on the form and click on the name of the employee. Please note that the employees listed here are only the Singapore citizens and permanent residents. After clicking the employee, you will then be redirected to this page where you need to fill out the necessary information. Once done, you must click on the Save button to save the information. And after completing all the necessary details for the IR8S form, you can then proceed to generate the IR8S form and submit it to IRAS. That's it for the IR8S form. And that would be all for our demo. Before we proceed, just a quick reminder that for any questions, you may drop them in the Q&A box. Now for the common questions. First, how come I am not seeing the resigned staff? To see the resigned staff, you must reactivate the staff and then make sure to tick or enable back the payroll module for that resigned staff. Please go to User Admin, Employee Details page, Then Deactivated Employees tab. Once you're on the Deactivated Employees page, you will see all the resigned employees, then you must reactivate them. After reactivating, you must tick the payroll module to add them when generating for IRAS. So, you might be asking why the resigned employees are found inside the Deactivated Employees page. Perhaps it is because when the time of their resignation, their accounts have been deactivated to free up a license or to cut some cost in terms of the number of headcounts. Now, please be aware that when reactivating the resigned employees, it will take up or use a license accordingly. Next, what is my organization ID type and which one should I use? The UEN Local Co is for local companies. This is commonly used. The UEN Business is for local businesses that are mostly owned by one person. The UEN Others is applicable for foreign companies, LLP, clubs, associations, and government agencies. How do I know if my submission was successful? To know the status of your submission, you can check inside the Submission Status page. There is a submission reference number. Also, there should be an acknowledgement email from IRAS. It will be received by the authorized person's email address. Next question, what is batch indicator? The original option is for first-time submission, while the amendment option is used only when the income details have already been submitted to IRAS, but would require some corrections. That would be all for the common questions. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A box and we'll answer them at the end, or the team will respond in chat. We understand that submissions can be intimidating, and preparing for your first time IRAS submissions can feel overwhelming, especially as the deadline approaches. Don't worry, because we offer one-to-one consultation sessions to guide you through your submission process. Simply indicate your interest in the poll, and we'll get in touch to schedule a session. Thank you for attending today's training. While we're waiting for more questions to come in, we just wanted to quickly share some of the most exciting new tools available at Just Login. We recently launched a bunch of AI-powered tools, like AI Chatbot, helping you gain insights and analyze your HR data using casual prompts such as, who's late today? Who has worked the most overtime hours this month? And how much commission was paid out in Q3? Next, we have Appraisal, a performance management system helping you gather, track, and identify your best assets in the organization, just in time for your year-end review. And last but not least, we've relaunched Recruitment, now with additional AI-powered enhancements, helping parse resumes, score candidates, and compare the best and most relevant applicants, so you narrow down hundreds of resumes to the top 10. If you're interested to see how these new tools can make working life better, request a guided trial with your dedicated customer success manager to understand how your companies can benefit. Now, let's answer some of the questions raised.